So you want to read a comic book, but let's say neither your closest local comic book shop nor your wallet allow you to actually, consume the physical media. So, what's the next solution? Wait for it to arrive at the comic book shop? Spend a lot of money on maybe an omnibus that contains said story that you want to read? Well, no. There are other methods to consume said media, and we both know what I'm talking about. And as when I'm recording this little talk, it has been like a full day since probably the most famous comic book pirating website has been quote-unquote taken down. I'm not even sure if it's the case. I'm not even sure if it's actually like permanently down for count. I don't know. Or if it'll come back. Most likely it will, because we all know how this works. But this whole situation has got me thinking on a few things. Like, first off, the amount of people mourning this website like it's their fucking grandma. But specifically the people like attacking, the pirating websites with their, their moralisms and their, oh, now you're gonna actually have to buy the books and support the artists. When really, it's not really that simple, Let's talk a little about comic book piracy. Now, before I say anything, I'm gonna have to address some things. I live in Italy. I don't know how many of you know this. I think I said that in a comment a few months ago, but I am Italian. So I'm not exposed to the whole plethora of trade paperbacks, omnibus, and single issues that maybe American stores have or any other stores have. And the way it works is that we don't have a lot of things, and we get the most recent stuff very late because of acquiring contracts and translations. It takes time. And another problem is that we don't own a lot of old books, old series, independent stuff. There's a lot of things that can't be printed and published here for the simple fact that publishers don't own the rights. So what should I do? Should I just not read anything that isn't available? There are a lot of series, both old and not from Marvel and DC, that are just never been published here. And if I were to quote-unquote respect the industry, I would just not consume media, not consume art, because it's not affordable or available. And I'm sorry, but this frankly sounds dystopian to me. I really cannot fathom the idea of simply not interfacing myself with a piece of art, because comic books are art in every shape or form of the word, and just not doing it because, I can't buy it, so why should I? I'm sorry, but this sounds horrible to say. I felt horrible to say. Just imagine that. Now I'm gonna make an example here. I have been dying to add the Harry Osborn saga written by Dave Matthews in my bookshelf, in my comic book collection, which is made up of things that I actually read, by the way. But there are only two ways for me to own this comic book. It's either an old trade paperback from an old newsstand initiative that they made, which was actually pretty cool, but it's gotten old at this point. And also in another edition that is basically, pocket issues that don't cost much and are pretty small. There's only one problem with both of these editions. They're fucking old. And they haven't been reprinted in a long fucking time. This means that I can't buy them because they're not getting reprinted. The only way for me to buy these is by going on the aftermarket. And you know how much does a fucking trade paperback with like maybe 9, 12 issues at max? It costs fucking 50 euros. Fuck you. The volume originally went for like 12, 15, 20 euros, which is a lot better than fucking 50. And the only reason it costs 50, it's not because this person actually cares about the story and like wants to sell it at the value that he thinks the story has for himself. No, it's because it's an old edition and it's quote unquote rare. There could be made an entire different discourse about how comic books have become the new Pokemon cards, basically, and not a way to like see the world in a different manner, not art anymore, like a mere value, a mere piece of, you know, collection that now has a tag attached to it that shows how much valuable it is. And, well, it has been like this for a long time right now. Well, it has been like this for decades at this point. But whatever. Side tangent aside. Back on track. What am I trying to say by this? Is that if I want to read some things, I have to use the pirating websites. Because if I don't, I simply cannot consume said art. And like I said, do you know how dystopian it sounds to not consume art because it's not available nor affordable? It's awful. And about the argument of not supporting artists, now the argument could be made about like ongoing series that you can actually support and you can show the industry that you're enjoying this by buying the single issues at the store. So the industry sees the sales and says, okay, people like this, we're gonna keep it going. It's what happened with the G. Willow Wilson's run of Black Cat. It's what happened to Absolute Martian Manhunter, and I couldn't be happier about that. But if you think that by buying the single issues of whatever series, not only ongoings, but even old issues, old paperbacks, if you think that buying these is gonna give the artists money, then you're fucking stupid. Do you know how much money the artists receive from you buying an old paperback or an old single issue with a story they drawn or they wrote? Maybe 2 cents, 3. Like, again, the argument could be made about ongoing series because you have to show that you're enjoying what is being made right now so it can continue. And you should do that. If you're reading something that you're enjoying, keep supporting it, keep talking about it, keep showing that you love it, even like both with your words and with your wallet. But if it's some old shit that you can't even like buy at the comic book store, is there like no ways to support artists? Sure there is. Talk about them. Talk about the artists. Talk about why you love their writing style or why they love their art, their techniques. You have social media, you bitches. Why don't you create a million threads about why you love said writer or said artists or said colorist, like whatever. Like this is honestly maybe enough and maybe even more effective than just spending like $80 on an omnibus that has one story in it that is written and drawn by them. Talk about them, give them visibility. And well, who knows, maybe they'll be even more recognized and be given more work because they saw people like their work. I'm not really sure how the comic book industry works as a whole, but I am very positive that only buying is not enough to support these artists. And sometimes it's not even like 10% effective. So, moral of this long and useless talk is that piracy is here to stay, and that is actually an effective method for people to consume media and read some of the most influential pieces of literature of the past century and the previous one. Art should not be locked behind a paywall. That is a dystopian reality that they have been pushing on you. Art should always be accessible and not reduced to mere value. But, like I said, if there is an ongoing series that you adore, or if there is like a series that is being drawn by an artist you particularly like, go to your local comic book shop and buy the latest single issue. Show them that you're enjoying this. Show them that you want this to go on. But if we're talking about older stuff, who cares? Talk about it, sure, but just know that the money you're spending on that isn't really going to the people you think this is going to. Also, stop calling it Read Comics Online. It's Read Comic Online, you LARPers.